Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Klekwas Vana Ve Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning. This is your portal into Africa's potent stories. Today on the show, we head first to Zimbabwe, where the ruling party is facing internal fires amid succession tensions. Then to Madagascar, where youth and army clash over the country's future direction. In Morocco, the Gen Z movement retakes to the streets demanding major reform. Heading west, we cover Côte d'Ivoire, where disinformation is poised to undermine the upcoming presidential vote. And in our extended report from Zambia with Mike Sichula, we explore industrial growth, a health crisis, and a burial site standoff. The show can be watched on DStv 285, GOtv 25, 1up2.com, and NTV Afrika on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top stories shortly. The ruling Zanu PF party faces a critical moment as growing factional tensions threaten to tear it apart if not properly managed. Political analyst Eldred Masunungure warned that the outcome of the party's internal struggle will depend on who holds the upper hand in the balance of power. Speaking during the National People's Conference in Mutare, Masunungure urged delegates to confront internal divisions decisively to avoid an implosion. Disputes between President Emerson Mnangagwa and Vice President Constantino Chiwenga have intensified, with Chiwenga questioning Mnangagwa's failure to act on a corruption dossier implicating figures like Wikno Chivayo, Kudakwashe Tagwirei, and Pedzai Sakupwanya, Mnangagwa's allies, including Ziambi and Christopher Mutsangwa, retaliated with harsh criticism, accusing the vice president of treason. Masunungure observed that Mnangagwa holds the advantage due to incumbency, while Chiwenga's military influence has weakened. Recent reshuffles removing Obert Mpofu and Ezekiel Zabanyana further suggest moves to isolate Chiwenga. Masunungure cautioned that the crisis could spill beyond the party and deepen national divisions ahead of the 2027 elective Congress. After weeks of protests over shortages and corruption, Madagascar's youth movement found itself caught between celebration and uncertainty following the army's takeover. When Colonel Michael Randrianirina joined demonstrations and forced President Andre Rajoelina to flee, many hailed the soldiers as protectors. Days later, Randrianirina was sworn in as president, pledging military rule alongside civilians for up to 2 years before elections. Youth leader Olivia Rafetison, who leads the movement Gen Z collective, expressed mixed feelings, saying they fought for systemic reform, not another leader in uniform. Madagascar's young population, with an average age of 19, continues to suffer from poverty, mismanagement, and economic decline since independence. Activist Alicia Andriana said they demanded basic needs like water, power, and affordable food, not another regime. Some Gen Z groups, such as Gen Z Tonga Saina, have voiced skepticism toward military intentions. Transparency International's Keta Kandiriana Rafetison acknowledged the coup as regrettable but said it stopped bloodshed after violent repression. Youth spokesperson Tolotora Randrianirina warned that they would return to the streets if the new leaders fail to deliver. Speaking of returning to the streets, after a brief pause, Morocco's youth resumed nationwide demonstrations demanding urgent reforms to education, healthcare, and corruption. Gathering outside Parliament in Rabat, the Gen Z 212 collective led renewed protests, declaring they would not stop until promises turn into action. One protester reader said demonstrations were meant to unify their ranks and reaffirm their demands. It was the first protest since King Mohammed VI addressed Parliament, calling for job creation and service improvements, but making no Many young people felt unconvinced, saying his words offered little concrete change. Protester Naji said it was too early to judge outcomes, but noted the youth remain hopeful. Participants insisted their momentum has not faded despite speculation after the break. They view their movement as part of a wider wave of Gen Z activism across the world, echoing calls for accountability and better living conditions. The rallies reflect a growing generational impatience with political inertia and economic hardship in Morocco's cities. In the last of our top stories, as Côte d'Ivoire heads to the polls on October 25, a flood of disinformation threatens to undermine confidence in the electoral process. False narratives, AI-generated content, and viral videos are circulating on social media, alarming analysts. Researcher Joel Djaha said politically aligned online activists are spreading rumors of violence and unrest. A viral video purportedly showing protests was traced to Haiti, highlighting the reach of misinformation. Media expert Asane Diagne warned that social networks amplify tension in a country with a violent electoral past. Memories of the 2010 crisis, which killed over 3,000 people, linger as fears of renewed unrest grow. Rumors about opposition candidate Tijane Tiam's nationality and disqualification have added to the tension. Analysts like Hyacinth Blay caution that suppressing protests could inflame anger. Meanwhile, authorities suspect foreign-linked campaigns from Sahel juntas seeking to influence outcomes. To counter falsehoods, the government launched #OnlineAllResponsible to promote media literacy. Fact-checkers like Ivoire Check continue working to curb digital manipulation, and this is ahead of the critical vote on the 25th of October. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be swinging over to Mike Sichula as he delivers the Zambia report. But prior to that, it's the weather. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. It's time for us to talk to Mike Sichula as he delivers the news from Zambia. Mike Uribanji.
Good Bruno Munibanji, Africa. Good morning to our dear viewers.
Africa, good morning. Indeed. Now, Mike looks pretty jolly, and it's not just because he's a Manchester United supporter, but China's wonderful group launches Africa's second largest fertilizer plant in Zambia.
Wow, this is a milestone achievement by the Chinese investor, like you rightly put it. The fertilizer plant that they have launched is the largest so far in Zambia. It is situated in the outskirts of Lusaka, and the President Hakainde Hichilema was the guest of honor to officially switch on this fertilizer plant. So our viewers may wish to know that Zambia has been in the past been manufacturing fertilizer from a state-owned company called Nitrogen Chemicals of Zambia, but its capacity is way below what this new fertilizer plant will be producing. According to the figures that have been provided to the media, this plant is expected to produce 300,000 metric tons of urea and D compound fertilizer annually, which is a very huge production cost. So the authorities, they want to create a situation where Zambia begins to export this fertilizer to neighboring countries. Already when this plant came on board with the initial plants that they had, Zambia has seen an increase of fertilizer exports to about 7 countries within the region. Then one of the highlights of this fertilizer plant is that it has the capacity to produce its own electricity. It will be producing about 85 megawatts of electricity. So part of half of this electricity will be supplied to the national grid. Then the rest will be used by the fertilizer plant for their own operations. And President Hakainde Hichilema did say that Zambia needs such investments in order for it to become an industrial hub within the Southern African region. Quite a very huge investment. And he also made a pledge that he would want his cabinet meeting next to be held at this fertilizer plant as a way of giving his cabinet ministers a first hand of information in terms of understanding how things should be done when you want to move the economy forward.
All right, Mike, in your next story, UNAIDS is warning of rising HIV infections among Zambia's young women.
So the latest report projects that Zambia's HIV/AIDS prevalence among women has risen from about 28,000 in 2023 to over 30,000 in 2024. So this has been attributed to various reasons, such as people not caring to take preventive measures, and also the high cost of living that is making young women to fall prey to people who may have the virus, but they are offering them an economic benefit of value. This is what has been attributed to this surge in the high number of young women contracting the virus. So there are some hotspots districts that has been highlighted to be the main area where this pandemic is fueling young women to get into these illicit activities and end up getting HIV. And some of these districts include Sorwezi, which is a new copper belt mining town, Lusaka, as well as the Copper Belt province itself, and other new areas where there are economic activities such as gold mining, because usually when people go to these sites, other young women also go to these sites to offer sexual services to men who have taken part in gold mining. So these are some of the reasons that have been attributed to, but authorities have not ended there. They have called for intensified awareness creation and also the provision of health products such as condoms to ensure that young women who may be caught up in this web can protect themselves by using well-established protections in order for them not to contract the HIV virus.
Now, Mike, in a story that we've been definitely looking forward to receiving an update from, the Zambian government and the family of Edgar Lungu are in talks over the late president's burial site.
From the look of things, talks seem to be collapsing because the latest information that was shared to Zambians by the family spokesman, Makebi Zuru, indicates that the discussions between the Zambian government and the Lungu family seem not to be heading the right direction as members of the public wished that this was going to be the case. So the latest information that has emerged from his public address to the media and the members of the public, it indicates that the Zambian government, without informing the Lungu family, did send investigators to the morgue that has been keeping the body of late President Edgar Lungu for the past 3 months to carry out an investigation as to whether the late president was assassinated or he was poisoned. So you can imagine, on one hand, the Zambian government, represented by Secretary to Cabinet Patrick Kangwa, is trying to engage the Lungu family. Then there's a group of people that have gone to the morgue to carry out an independent investigation without the consent of the family. So the family looked at this to be a betrayal of what was supposed to be a good process of bringing this matter to a closure. So because of that, the Lungu family does not believe that the government is sincere in the way they want to conduct themselves. Then just on Friday, when Zambia was observing the National Day of Prayer, which was declared as a public holiday by late President Edgar Lungu, President Hakainde called on Zambians that we should pray for the Lungu family in order for this to come to a close. Then it is also interesting that President Hakainde Hichilema was participating for the first time since he took office, where he presided over this National Day of Prayer, because according to him, based on past sentiments on the day when he was in opposition, he called this day, the National Day of Prayer, as a useless day that was created by President Edgar Lungu, when he did not mean what he meant, that there should be reconciliation and fasting in the country. But it was good that the president came and apologized to the gathering on some of the things that have been affecting Zambia, such as the increased electricity load shedding that has been rampant for the last 2 years. So those are some of the highlights, and the Lungu family are disappointed that the president again has continued to demean late President Edgar Lungu whenever he is addressing the public. One issue that the president spoke about just last week, following the jailing of one cabinet minister and a senior official in the Ministry of Finance, where these officials were said to have used a presidential jet to carry money from Turkey into Zambia. The president hinted to say who authorized this person to use a presidential jet to carry money into Zambia. That did not sit well with the Lungu family.
All right, Mike, thank you very much for that. Now we end with a sports update, or a couple of sports updates. Mixed fortunes for Zambian teams in CAF and Under-17 Women's World Cup.
Yes, quite not so good results for instance, for Zesco United, who were playing the Confederation Cup. They managed to beat Galaxy of Botswana by 4-3 at Ndola's Levi Mwanawasa Stadium. But as you know, in these CAF competitions, you don't need to concede so many goals at home, because this may haunt you in the return fixture. So this Saturday, Zesco United do travel to Francistown to face Galaxy and hope that they could manage to not to lose, or they could only to manage a draw in order for them to progress to the group stage of the CAF Confederations Cup. Then in the Champions League, Power Dynamos went to Kampala and pulled out a 2-1 victory over Vispas of Uganda. And this was a huge result for the Zambian champions, Power Dynamos, who went down but managed to come back and record a 2-1 victory heading into the second leg this coming Sunday. Then in the women's Under-17 World Cup taking place in Morocco, the Zambia Under-17 girls scored in the first 10 minutes against Paraguay, but at the end of 90 minutes, Zambia lost that match to Paraguay by 2-1. But one of the sad things that you may wish to know is that all the three goals that were scored in that match were scored by Zambian players. Paraguay did not score any goal, but they ended up winning by 2-1. Quite a very sad state of affairs for Coach Carlo Kanyemba, who is taking the women's under-17 team to her second World Cup, but losing to Paraguay in a match where Zambia dominated, where Zambia also missed a penalty in the 89th minute. It is a very painful result for Zambia, and they are hoping that they could do better in their next match against Japan. But this looks to be a sure hope.
All right, thank you very much, Mike, for delivering the Zambia report as only you know how.
Thank you very much, and I wish to congratulate Arsenal, but I'm also glad that you are too quick to congratulate Manchester United for beating Liverpool. But I know mostly because you didn't want the Liverpool to be too close behind you, Arsenal.
All right. Oh, many thanks, Mike. It's always good to have you around. We're not going to take a break. We're going to swing straight into our economic news stories. Sierra Leonean-born Ghana-based culinary innovator Fatoumata Binta has been appointed the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's Regional Goodwill Ambassador for Africa. Recognized for her advocacy of African heritage cuisine, underused crops and women farmers, Binta said the appointment represents a commitment to merging culture, food, and policy. The announcement was made on World Food Day as the FAO celebrated its 80th anniversary. Binta, the first African recipient of Kitchen Foundation to empower small-scale female farmers across sub-Saharan Africa. She also created the renowned Dine on a Mat nomadic restaurant, which showcases Fulani culinary traditions while promoting sustainability and community development. Through her work, Binta aims to amplify the voices of rural communities and drive conversations about food security across the continent. Her recognition by the FAO highlights the growing importance of indigenous food systems in global agricultural policy and the need to protect Africa's culinary and cultural heritage for future generations. South Africa's government plans to phase out $1.8 billion in medical aid tax credits to fund the National Health Insurance Scheme. Health Department Deputy Director Dr. Nicholas Crisp confirmed discussions with the National Treasury, stating the credits would constitute double funding once the NHI covers healthcare services. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has already frozen inflation adjustments, signaling the rebates gradual withdrawal. Let's have a look at the economic indicators before we swing by to say goodbye. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning on the 20th of October. These are some of the stories we looked at. Zimbabwe, Zanu PF faces risk of implosion amid succession turmoil. Madagascar Gen Z grapples with army's seizure of power after coup. Morocco Gen Z protesters return to streets demanding reform. In Côte d'Ivoire, disinformation surge clouds presidential election. In Ghana, Chef Fatmata Binta named FAO Goodwill Ambassador for Africa. And South Africa, medical aid tax credits to be scrapped for NHI funding. We also received the Zambia report delivered by the one and only Mike Sichula, and tomorrow, Talent Gore takes up the screen as he delivers the Zimbabwe report. And as always, we will be bringing you the news stories from broader Africa. DStv 285, GOtv 285, oneup2.com, where you can click echo to have a look at this episode and other NTV programs, because on oneup2.com, echo primetime is anytime. My name is Ashwin Bedi. This has been Africa Good Morning. As we always say, Swela Shakanaka.